And now we move on to our next section, that is how can schools attract, develop and retain teachers. CENTA is all about opportunities for great teachers. But where do these opportunities come from? Naturally, from the employers. Who are the employers? The schools. Focusing on the career growth of the teachers should be one of the important aspects for the schools. And to discuss this, we have with us a very exciting panel. The newly appointed Secretary General of the Central Board of Secondary Education, Government of India, Mr. Himanshu Gupta. Introducing Mr. Himanshu Gupta, he has a distinguished educational background, having completed his schooling at Shivalik Doon School and Kundan Vidya Mandir with honors, followed by an engineering degree from IIT. His illustrious career has seen him hold pivotal positions marked by remarkable contributions. Notable achievements include establishment of the first citizen facilitation center during his tenure as the SDM in Najafgarh, Delhi, and the enhancement of Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya in Tissa, along with the establishment of mobile network connectivity in the insurgency-prone NSCN district during his service as Deputy Commissioner in Longding district of Arunachal Pradesh. Next on the panel is Colonel Gopal Karunakaran, who is the CEO of Shivnadar Schools in India. He's a graduate from the NDA, that is National Defense Academy, and he spent 30 years in the Indian Army, 10 of which were in the insurgency region of Kashmir, including Siachen Glacier. While working with the army, he was chosen for the United Nations mission in Kuwait in a multilateral and multicultural environment. Later, he joined the Shivnadar Foundation as the director of Shivnadar Schools in 2014 and took over the reins of Shivnadar Schools as the CEO. Shivnadar Schools have three of their Delhi NCR based schools rated AAA by CENTA on teacher quality. What is remarkable about Colonel Gopal Karunakaran is his passion for education as a tool for social transformation. Next in line on the panel, we have with us Mr. Eric Leo Ajayama. I'm sorry to mispronounce your name. Eric Leo Ajayama from Child Bilingual Institute in Ghana, where he leads the academic and technology department. He is a dedicated and committed educator with a strong mission towards empowerment. In fact, Rishrik, who joined us a while back on the Student Showcase, Student Discussion section, is from Child Bilingual Institute in Ghana. After that, we have with us Mr. Rahul Patel, who is the Chief Academic Officer at Northside Charter High School, Brooklyn. According to him, success is defined not by the work or the number of tasks you do, or the number of achievements you get, but by the number of people that are affected by what we do. And once again, I invite Tiffany to moderate this conversation, to moderate this particular segment. Over to you, Tiffany.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And thank you to every educator that's joined us. We truly hope that you are having a great experience. And if you are able to engage by adding a couple of questions to the chat, we hope to incorporate those at the end if time permits. Mr. Gupta, Colonel Gopal, Mr. Eric Leo, and Mr. Patel, I'm so excited to be in community with each of you because all of you are driving towards transformative impact in your respective communities in India, Ghana, and in the United States. And while I know there are undoubtedly strategies and priorities that are unique to your context, I know that you share at least two things in common. First, you believe in the potential of all students and are fueled by a commitment to expand learning opportunities for them. And second, I know you fully understand that you have to support, empower, and partner with teachers to help our students reach and exceed their potential. And that last point is what our conversation is going to be about, because our lived experiences and even recent reports from UNESCO's Global Report on Teacher estimates the need for 44 million additional teachers by 2030. So it reaffirms the importance of this conversation. And Colonel Gopal and Mr. Eric Leo, I'd love to start with you. Before we talk about attracting, developing, and retaining great teachers, we have to talk about how we identify great leaders. And so, Colonel Gopal, when you think about the work that you're leading, what are some of the steps that you take to identify great leaders for your schools?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world the participants are. But it's fantastic to be part of this panel and part of this conversation, which I think is central to human development across the world, which is great schools and great teachers. And it'll never come without great teachers.
Yeah.
And I think essentially it's a great question because great teachers do not come without great leaders. And it all starts with how do we select great leaders?
Yes.
Institution leaders, and which is what we've done with the Shivnara schools about 14 odd years ago when we started. I think leadership of schools is also, I think, a bit understated in importance. We don't really... We talk a great deal about teachers, we do what we can, but I think spending time in quality institutional leadership and development of leaders is quite central. Among the many things that we do look for in leaders, I think, is firstly, of course, I think it would be a fallacy to be able to select a school leader with one meeting or two meetings. So it takes several meetings. I think the first thing I'd like to say is it takes several. You're selecting a leader for an institution, especially if it's a startup institution, it takes even more. So I'd say first take many, many meetings. Get quite a few people to see the person from all sides. I think the second thing is to look for, other than just domain expertise, which the person could have for having taught chemistry for 20 years or 30 years or English. I think it's about the skills of leadership that you're looking at. And I think on top of that list would be curiosity.
Yes, yes.
It would be energy. It would be humility. So I may just leave it at 3, and I'd like Rahul and others to chip in, but I would say be careful about looking at these 3.
Yeah.
Is there enough curiosity? That is the willingness to learn constantly and rather believe that you know everything. It won't really work. Energy, both mental energy, physical energy, I think is very, very central. And humility is important because, if you get there thinking that you know everything, it'll never work. I think it's important to highlight that. Are you seeing a humble person? For example, you ask a simple question: what are the things you got wrong in your career? Some people stumble, but others have been reflective in their lives to think about it. And those are the people who actually will get to lead great schools, who are reflective to say, I did screw up out there, I made a mistake there, and I'm able to talk about it. I think that reflection along with these 3 would be, I think, the top 4 things I would look at.
I love that. Thank you so much. And Mr. Eric Leo, how does your team at Child Bilingual Institute identify great leaders for the classroom?
Thank you very much. If I can say, we try to groom leaders. We will not want to select them. So we want to be able to, for the leaders to be able to imbibe the culture of our school. So most of our leaders have been with us for several years because there is a policy to continue to groom them. So we watch you, especially your soft skills. the culture, the vision of the institution, and how you're able to make use work along with the school's vision. And at a certain stage, you will be communicated to that you are being groomed as a leader. Because per the plan that the institution has, over 5 years, we should have people that we are grooming them to become leaders. So I think that's what I can say for a start, that we do groom leaders. Hardly do we bring in leaders from outside our community. That's what we call.
I love that. And Mr. Gupta, I really appreciate what Mr. Eric Leo is talking about in terms of having time with leaders, over an extended period of time so you can see their strengths, so you can groom them. And I know, just given the work that you lead, Mr. Gupta, you've thought a lot about the foundational relationship between schools and teachers. Can you describe your vision for the ideal relationship between schools and teachers? Mr. Gupta, are you with us? Sorry. I think you might be on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, Tiffany Taylor, Gopal Karunakaran ji, Rahul Patel ji, Eric Leo Asmia ji, and all the eminent distinguished guests who are present today, Ramya ji. I think, can you come back again on the question?
Yeah, so what's your ideal vision for the ideal relationship between schools and teachers?
I think schools and teachers, if you talk about, it should be like a family. And, teachers should be connected with the school, with the development of the school, and whatever is happening in teachers' life. I think that is very, very important. And as far as the overall the teaching learning framework is concerned, then schools must provide sort of autonomy to the teachers, because many a times what we see is that teachers are being made to go through the same curriculum, and they are not allowed to use their own creative approaches. So I think teachers should be allowed to innovate in the classrooms, use different strategies, so that they also feel motivated and they also continuously improve.
Yes.
And I think it is also very important that there is continuous professional development of teachers. For that, either mentoring or having peer-to-peer mentoring, or through coaching, or taking teachers to some of the prominent institutions for training, that should also be should be worked out. Then I think it is very important that we recognize the good teachers who are doing exceptional work, and we not only provide them financial incentives, but also we should try to recognize them and give them some roles that which are interesting for them also. It might be a coordinator of a section or of a subject, or whatever the teacher is best at. And then I think it is very important that there should be open communication between teachers and the school leadership, because many a times school leadership is not open to new ideas, and majority of the decisions are taken from the top. And I think it is very important that in schools, teachers are being heard of before taking any big decision, and they are made part of decision making. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Patel, when you think about innovative schools, it's schools that are really focused on the future of teaching and learning. We've heard about the importance of open communication, ensuring our teachers are not just our partners in the work, but they are heard and they are seen, and that they are recognized for all that they contribute. What else can schools do to make themselves attractive for our educators?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? I
Yes.
can't tell if Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. That was a great question, Tiffany. I think that in order for teachers to be innovative, we have to create psychological safety. I think, especially in America, we're so big on evaluating teachers and that really takes away from their ability to try something new. I was having a conversation with a teacher earlier this week, and we were rolling out what our coaching and observations are going to look like this year. And the first question was, but how, if we're being evaluated and during a time where we're trying a new technique, a new curriculum, a new method, how can we ensure that we're not going to get penalized for having a bad lesson? And that really struck me. And so what we've done is we've implemented the opportunity for teachers to redo an informal observation if it goes bad, because informal observations are sort of like the formative assessments, if you will, for teachers, and so they should be allowed to redo it if they don't have a good lesson. And that for me is how we support innovation and how we ensure that our teachers can, they have the psychological safety and the autonomy, like Himanshu mentioned, to sort of do the thing that they know how to do. And I think it also is a show to them that we trust their professional decision making as well.
Yeah. So I appreciate this point about trust, and Mr. Patel, I'd love for you to stay with us on this point. How do you balance this need for structured professional development, those evaluations, with allowing teachers the freedom to innovate and grow independently, so you can cultivate this culture of achievement, this culture of trust, where folks are willing to try new strategies, to fail fast, to learn, and to grow? How do you balance the need for those two? And Mr. Eric Leo, I'd also love to hear your reflections on that as well.
Yeah. Well, so me and my leadership team have decided that sort of one-off PDs don't do the job. And so we put a lot of emphasis on the coaching aspect of learning. And so what we've done is, we've sort of come up with in America, we use the Danielson framework for the most part. And so we've come up with 8 categories. We've worked out our PD calendar for the year against those 8 categories. But we haven't figured out what those PDs are going to be yet, because the coaching that our academic leadership does will inform the kind of learning that will happen 2 to 3 weeks out. And so we really use the one-on-one coaching relationships that our coaches have with our teachers to inform what the PDs will look like. And so it's constantly changing. It's very dynamic. It isn't set in stone from the first day of school, because right now we don't know what our teachers are going to need 3 to 4 months out.
I appreciate that. Mr. Eric Leo, what's your approach to professional development to ensure that it's relevant to Mr. Patel's point, but also impactful and allows for that autonomy and appreciation for teacher innovation and voice?
Yes, our approach here is that, so for instance, in terms of the trust issues, we even involve the teachers in the planning issue. So before any decision is taken, we find conversation going on and talking about whatever the decision is supposed to be made about. Sorry. So for instance, this academic year, the main thing we're looking at is trying to reduce cognitive load. So communication around it started late last academic year. Then we're able to do the planning and left the final part of the planning to the teachers. But to ensure that we are going to reduce load, cognitive load. So in your finalizing the planning, you have to make sure you're going to reduce some of the load. So when thinking about your homework or activities you are giving to the kids, we all have an aim. And for the professional development, what we do, for instance, we have been with CENTA for quite some time now. So we let them have the various workshops and webinars on CENTA, and they decide that, okay, this is what I want to take a critical look at for this year. So I'm going to watch CENTA webinars on these particular topics. Then we'll make sure that we will only be looking at how you implement them in your class.
Yes.
Then at a point in time, we also ask them, which ones do you want the school to pay for you? And that's what we're working on. So that with CENTA's introduction of school, I think school program for school, we are critically looking at it since they are going to monitor the kind of training that the teachers are going through so that they'll help us be able to prescribe exact professional development that they need.
That's helpful. And I'd love to shift gears a bit. It's helpful to hear your reflections on the need for psychological safety, strong professional development that's grounded in coaching and trust and ensuring our teachers are growing consistently. But one of the things, and Colonel, I'd love to hear your reflections on this, that we know is that so many teachers and so many research reports tell us that another key strategy in attracting and developing and retaining great teachers is improving salaries. And we also know that sometimes there's economic constraints on salary. So how do we hold this truth of we need to compensate our teachers better, more fairly, more equitably, pay them what they're worth essentially, and balance economic constraints?
You know, I must start by saying that I will not go against that research.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's put that behind us. I mean, at the end of the day, it does matter. In India, teachers are still woefully poorly paid. Woefully poorly paid for what they do, right? Having said that, there are pay commissions, and it's very difficult to get to those levels for a lot of individuals or small trusts who run schools to be able to balance both, be able to give top salaries and be able to provide great infrastructure and facilities, which is a huge need. So India as a nation has its own challenges about how you can continue to provide for having top salaries as well as infrastructure, meet the demands of a very large population, and public sector education not really performing as much as it should. It's a huge shift into the private sector. There are many challenges, but I think salaries are important, perks are important. Having said that, I think fundamentally the role of institution leaders is about building that terrific culture, which Eric spoke about, which makes people see purpose beyond just getting remuneration, etc. Because at the end of the day, we live for a life of purpose. And one of the finest feedbacks I got from teachers once when I did with about 800 teachers, we did Menti, the tool which you can use, which gives you anonymous instant feedback about why Shiv Nada schools. And I did put pay and perks to nearest to home, to great food. But the one thing which went up the most from the teachers was the opportunity to learn and grow. So if the culture of the institution says, come here, there is a tremendous purpose, there's opportunity to learn and grow. And third thing I would say is what we call art in our school, ART, that you're appreciated, you're respected, and you're trusted. Like Himanshu said, you have to be trusted for saying it's your area. You are the chemistry teacher, you know your chemistry, you want to experiment with your chemistry, go ahead and do that. Right? Yes. Not sit on top of them and say, this is not how you do it, and you get judged and overjudged, like Rahul said. I think it's important to look at appreciation, respect, trust, having a terrific culture which says you're here for a life of purpose. And if I may say so, I lived 30 years in the military. Between the military and teaching, I don't think that any two professions which are better than this. So it's about creating the environment to say you live a life of purpose and you make a difference. And if that's what resonates around the school all the time, I think teachers will keep getting better and better. And that's something I think is work for us. That's why we have a very large number of people who, by the way, do extremely well at CENTA. It's voluntary. We ask new teachers to do it, but the fact that they go out and do it, we provide for some sort of concession to the exam, but it's only prodding them. But the fact that they take to it like fish to water,
yes,
makes us very proud.
Love that. I love that.
Things, yeah.
Yes. And you know, I really love that acronym ART, appreciate, respect, and trust. And Mr. Gupta, I tell people all the time, becoming a teacher was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And so when you hear the reflections from the Colonel, when you hear reflections from Mr. Eric Leo and Mr. Patel, we still know that even as we work to create these aspirational cultures and these environments where our teachers can be creative, they can be innovative, that we still need some additional strategies to make sure the career of teaching is more appealing, especially in regions where the profession is undervalued, right? And not just from a compensation standpoint. Outside of what we've heard today, are there any additional strategies that we need to employ to make sure our teachers are valued and see this as the career that they must, right, become a part of?
I would, in fact, like to, I will partly agree with other speakers, and I would partly disagree, because in India, if you see what are the salaries of government school teachers, I being in CBSE, I generally vet school salaries. So I find that, I mean, 90% of the school teachers in private schools are underpaid, while in public schools or government schools, teachers are paid actually really well. But are the results of government schools, better than private schools? That is not the case. That shows that, in teaching, financial incentive is just one part. Culture of the school. I have seen schools in Delhi. I was director of education of Delhi. There are schools with, say, annual fees of, I would say, in terms of dollars, they are around $1,000 annually. And we also have schools with the fees of $5,000. We found that in many schools where the fees is less, and even, teachers are paid less, they are performing better than the ones which are, paying more to their teachers also and collecting more fees. So the main in some of the schools, what we found was that the management was very dedicated. The environment of the school was very positive. Overall, the culture of the school, the teachers, were the teachers training of in those schools was very, very robust. So I think it is very important that teachers are actually kept motivated and they enjoy coming to their work. They what I always say this, that apart from your mother and father, perhaps teaching is the only profession where you are actually dealing with human beings. If you are an engineer, you are building houses. You are a doctor, you are treating somebody when somebody is ill. You are a banker, you are a consultant. You are dealing, with your job. But when you are a teacher, you are actually dealing with human beings. Apart from one's parents, it's the teacher who spends the most of the time in early years with a child. So that's why, the kind of satisfaction one can get in teaching, that that feeling has to be brought in the school and among teachers. And yes, apart from salaries, there are other ways, like, giving them administrative role also, apart from their teaching, then recognizing them, praising them in various having sort of competitions, and then recognizing them. And like, we give Teachers Day awards, we give state teachers awards, district teacher awards. So these are some other ways. But what I personally feel is that the entire, you have to keep, that feeling has to be kept alive in the teachers, and that can only be there when, the school acts together as a family, and that feeling of doing something for society is there in school leadership, school management, and teachers.
I love that. I love that. And we have just 2 more minutes. And so I would love, Mr. Eric Leo, Mr. Patel, and Colonel, if you could leave. We have thousands of teachers joining us today, and there are millions a part of the CENTA network. What's one encouraging word that you would love, or encouraging piece of advice that you love to leave these teachers with? And Mr. Eric Leo, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to Mr. Patel.
Yes, one encouraging thought I would like to leave to all teachers is that the profession they are in, it's an important profession. And it is also not restrictive because of technological advances. So every teacher should continue to train himself or herself, and especially with school leaders, should themselves be in a way business-like in managing the school, in trying to look for avenues that their teachers can also do in addition to whatever they are doing in the school to improve, to be able to take care of what obviously most of our institutions cannot in terms of their salary levels, but rather be business-like, and for the teachers, they should continue to train themselves. And I have one example. In our institution, we had students from the university, one or two, they were our alumni, and they are in the university currently doing distant courses, and we got them in. Now, they are offering courses in technology. So we are able to also give them other works in the school that is related to their courses, like data analysis. So they feel satisfied that they are doing the kind of work that they want to do in future. So they will not take themselves, I want to teach for some time and later go and do another work. And I think it's a nice way we are trying to be able to help our teachers to aspire for future work in the teaching sector.
Thank you so much. Mr. Patel, one piece of advice?
Yeah, teaching leads to every other profession.
Yes. Yes.
Period.
I love it.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. I love it. And Colonel, you're going to close us out. What's one encouraging piece of advice for all the teachers joining us today and the millions of teachers who will watch this in years to come?
Well, clearly, you make a difference.
Yes.
And you will always be remembered. I mean, school teachers are always remembered. I think these two things are what every teacher must keep with her or him.
I love it. Thank you so much. I think that's the perfect way to close out this panel. Every educator listening, remember that you make a difference. Mr. Gupta, Colonel, Mr. Eric Leo, and Mr. Patel, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and thank you for all that you do in your respective communities for students all over the world. And with that, we'll turn it back over to CENTA.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for moderating this session. Thank you so much to all the panelists, Himanshu ji, Gopal, Eric, Rahul. Thank you very much for being there.